police K9 suddenly stopped at a 200-year-old tree, barking wildly, refusing to move. At first, officers thought it was nothing. But when they cut into the hollow trunk, what tumbled out left everyone gasping. The secret hidden inside connected to missing children and changed everything forever. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. And really, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. In the center of a quiet, old town stood a massive tree, its twisted trunk and sprawling roots older than any building around it. Locals said it had been there for more than 2 centuries, watching generations come and go. Children played beneath its shade, while elders whispered strange tales, stories of voices carried by the wind and shadows moving after dusk. To most, it was simply folklore, nothing more than ghost stories passed down through time. Yet the truth was far darker. Hidden within that ancient tree was a secret that had waited far too long to be uncovered. For decades, the town carried a wound that never healed. Children had vanished without a trace, sometimes on their way to school, other times while playing in the park. Posters with smiling faces once lined the lampposts, but as years passed, they faded, leaving only broken families and unanswered questions. The disappearances were scattered across generations, making them harder to connect. Some whispered about kidnappers, others spoke of curses, but no explanation ever came. Parents clutched their children tighter, yet the fear lingered like a shadow across the town. Investigations launched, suspects questioned, but each trail ended in silence. Though the missing were remembered at vigils and anniversaries, the truth behind their disappearance remained buried in mystery. And while most people tried to move on, a quiet dread hung over the community. Something sinister was out there, hidden in plain sight, waiting to be revealed. It was a bright afternoon when 2 officers began their routine patrol through the town square. Families strolled nearby, tourists snapped pictures, and laughter echoed faintly across the park. Everything seemed ordinary, until their K9 partner, Rex, froze in his tracks. His ears shot up, hackles rising, as a low growl rumbled from his chest. The officers exchanged puzzled looks. Rex was one of the best-trained dogs in the unit, known for his calm focus, but now he strained at the leash, eyes locked on the massive 200-year-old tree that loomed nearby. He barked sharply, pulling with such force that one officer nearly lost his grip. "Easy, boy, what is it?" one of them muttered, trying to steady him. But Rex wouldn't budge. He circled the base of the tree, sniffing furiously, growling louder each time his nose pressed against a strange bulge in the trunk. The peaceful park grew tense as passers-by stopped to watch. Something inside that tree had triggered the K9's instincts, and the officers knew from experience that Rex never reacted without a reason. What had seemed like a routine patrol was quickly spiraling into the beginning of a mystery no one expected. The officers leaned closer, following Rex's insistent barking. At first glance, the trunk appeared normal, gnarled, rough, and weathered by centuries of storms. But as they traced their hands over the bark, they noticed something unusual. A large knot bulging unnaturally from the side, darker than the rest of the tree. Rex scratched at it furiously, claws scraping against the surface, his growls deepening. The closer they looked, the more unsettling it became. Small cracks lined the bulge, as if it had once been forced outward from the inside. One officer pressed his ear against it and immediately pulled back. "There's something hollow," he whispered, his face pale. The faintest odor seeped through the cracks, sharp and sour, the kind of smell that didn't belong in fresh air. A cold shiver ran through both officers. This was no ordinary knot in the wood. It was a warning. The decision was made quickly. Something had to be investigated. By evening, the square was cordoned off with yellow tape, and a small crowd gathered at a distance, whispering anxiously. Specialists arrived carrying tools, their expressions serious as they examined the ancient trunk. Rex sat close by, still growling softly, eyes never leaving the spot. With careful precision, an arborist placed a drill against the bulging knot. The sound of the bit cutting into the wood echoed unnaturally, making onlookers flinch. Within moments, the drill broke through into an empty pocket. Hollow. The officer's suspicions were confirmed. Chisels and saws were brought in, peeling back the thick layers of bark. Dust and wood shavings filled the air as the opening widened. Inside, the beam of a flashlight caught on something unexpected, scraps of faded fabric, torn and brittle. With age, a small shoe, no larger than a child's, tumbled out onto the ground. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Officers exchanged uneasy glances, their stomachs tightening. This was no simple hollow, no natural cavity formed by time. Something, or someone, had hidden secrets inside this tree. And now, after 2 centuries of silence, those secrets were demanding to be seen. The moment the shoe fell, the air shifted. Officers and experts pressed closer as the hollow space inside the tree was carefully widened. The beam of a flashlight cut deeper into the dark cavity, revealing something pale tangled among the roots. At first, it seemed like stone, but then, the truth became undeniable. Bones. Small, fragile bones lay scattered inside, some wrapped in tatters of decayed cloth. A skull, no larger than a child's, rolled forward, landing near the roots with a sickening thud. Gasps and cries escaped from the gathered crowd. Mothers clutched their children tighter, some turning away in horror. The officers froze, their throats dry. For years, the missing children had been nothing more than haunting memories, their fates unknown. But here, within the heart of the ancient tree, the mystery had revealed its gruesome answer. Forensics specialists stepped in, their gloves trembling, as they began carefully removing the remains. Each piece carried decades of silence, every fragment telling a story of innocence stolen. The park, once a place of laughter and life, had become a crime scene. The K9 had unearthed not just a clue, but the chilling truth. As investigators worked through the night, historians were called in to study the site. Old town records, long buried in dusty archives, revealed a name tied to the land centuries ago, a caretaker who had lived near the square in the early 1800s. Whispers from the past described him as a solitary man with a sinister reputation. Locals of that era spoke of children disappearing, yet no one dared accuse him openly. Fear kept their voices quiet, and with time, the stories faded into folklore. Now, with the remains uncovered, those whispered suspicions took on chilling weight. The ancient tree had not been a silent witness. It had been a hiding place, a grotesque tomb that concealed horrors for over 2 centuries. The discovery shook the foundations of history, transforming a simple legend into undeniable truth and casting new shadows over the town's once proud landmark. News of the discovery spread like wildfire. By morning, the town square was filled with grieving families, neighbors, and reporters. Some stood in silence, tears streaming as they remembered the names and faces of children lost so long ago. Others lit candles at the base of the ancient tree, turning the site into a place of mourning. For parents who had died never knowing the fate of their children, the truth came too late. But for descendants, there was finally an answer, however painful. The community wrestled with a storm of emotions: relief, sorrow, anger, and disbelief that such darkness had been hidden in plain sight. Authorities promised to preserve the remains with dignity, planning a memorial where future generations would remember the children whose laughter was stolen. The town, once haunted by unanswered questions, now carried a heavier truth, but also a chance for long-awaited closure. Amid the sorrow and shock, one figure emerged as the unlikely hero: Rex, the K9 whose instincts had uncovered the tree's dreadful secret. At a small ceremony held in the square, townspeople gathered not only to honor the lost children, but also to recognize the dog who refused to ignore the truth. Children placed flowers around Rex's paws, and families patted his head with gratitude in their eyes. Officers stood proudly beside him, calling him more than a partner, calling him a savior. Without Rex's unshakable persistence, the cries of the missing may have remained buried forever.